Hey guys, it's Abby and you're watching On the Bit. So today I'm obviously wearing the same thing I wore in my last video, or if I post this one first in my next video I will be wearing the same thing because I just had time to film it today, and that's what's kind of going on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, or probably a bit about, I guess, the equitation class that I took through my university. And if you watched my first video, I talked about Lena, the little paint mare that I was riding, little Palomino. She's actually in my in my intro. She's the Palomino with the big blaze that I show. And so I'm gonna talk about like my experiences, what I learned, what I wish I had learned, I guess, which isn't a lot because I learned more than I thought I was going to. So let's talk about Lena. Lena, she's a great horse and I loved learning on her. I did learn quite a bit from her, especially like with my seat and my leg. I'm definitely a different rider after her. I don't remember if I talked about this, but she was very cinchy. She had a lot of, like, I wouldn't say back problems. It's more of like shoulder problems. Sorry. Like, she was so grumpy and cinchy all the time, and people would always say it's like, oh, it's a mare thing and all this stuff, and I was like, that's not what's really going on. She's got pain in her back or something, and like, it took me a while to realize what was going on, or like, what was bothering her the most. And personally, I think it was like where like the saddle just did not fit her well at all, and it was really pinching on her withers. Pretty like high withered, bony horse. So I was like, okay, I think that's most of the problem because she's super cinchy. She would always reach around and she'd like genuinely try to bite you. And I had like close calls where she got me with her lips and just barely missed me because I tied her up so tight, but she's also tried to kick me when she realized that I had tied her so she couldn't turn her head around and try to bite me. So that's when I kind of figured out that she was in a lot of pain. And even though she didn't show it when she was riding, it was bothering her a lot. So I tried her with a half pad. Actually, it was a pretty thick, like, gummy type half pad. And the first use of it, she was amazing. She didn't try to bite. Like, it just instantly relieved her pain. But, like, after a while, it got to the point where it was, like, even the people who were still, that were still, using that half pad, she still wasn't feeling any better. So I definitely learned a lot from her about feeling your horse, feeling their back, feeling through their mouth. Even though, like, before I was jumping and stuff before this class, I mean, even though it was just, like, small, like, cross trails and, like, cavalettis, basically, just short, itty-bitty stuff. I mean, so I knew how to ride before I went to this class, obviously. But I did learn a lot from her, really, about feeling your horse and, trying to decipher what they're telling you through their body while you're riding. So I learned a lot from her. One thing I'm going to mention real quick before I move on to my other horse that I was riding is that I was, like, afraid to jump her because there were times where she would, like, just on cross rails where she would stop and, like, leap over it, kind of. She wasn't as bad as some of the other horses in the class, but there were a lot of times that she really just scared me, and I was really not a confident rider on her. I was scared to canter her. She'd like, all these horses are just really tense, bracy horses. Like, they rush through everything, Lena more than the horse I was riding after her, but she was really quick in the canter, and she would really sink her shoulder in when she turned, and like, that's not a bad thing. It's like, it's just what she does and like how they're supposed to do it, I guess. But it just really scared me because I didn't feel like I had the balance to stay on her when that happened. And so a lot of times when we were cantering, especially when our instructor had us doing canter circles, I didn't have the confidence, and I thought I wasn't gonna be able to like do anything on her. I was like the main thing I wanted out of this class was the confidence and the ability to know go and jump things, which is what I got out of it. But I didn't get that out of Lena. That's I couldn't get that from her. We didn't work well. Like, I didn't fight her at anything, but if she wanted to, she would have put up a fight about it. So I just kind of let her do her thing, just to avoid like conflict with her and avoid like any like scarring experiences. So the next horse I was on, he was an Arabian, around 16 hands. He was quite a bit bigger than Lena. I know I could look down on her. So, Lena, like, was barely 15 hands, I think, and if she was like, I'm 5'2", like, I'm short, and usually every horse I ride is a lot bigger than I am. So I went to this class, and I was expecting, like, big horses, and it ended up being, like, you know, cow horses, like, that they had turned into, or not, like, turned into, but, like, horses that didn't cut it as cow horses or as working horses, so they ended up in this class, is what, you know, I don't know if that's 100% true, but a lot of the times, that's where these horses come from, I think. Or they come from, like, other places, obviously. But yeah, so this next horse that I rode, Parker, he's sassy. Definitely more laid back than Lena, a lot more willing to do things. Like, I know there was a lot of stuff I would try and try and try, and I always thought it was something with me, but it was Lena. She was just unwilling to do things, like, just totally, I wouldn't say oblivious, but, you know, you would give her leg aids and, like, support rein and all this other stuff, and she didn't want to do it. And she wouldn't protest it, she would just not do it. And with Parker, I had a really great experience. I think he's older than Lena, and there was a lot of times where he was, like, tripping. He just tripped over himself, and that's just, like, I wouldn't say a pet peeve, but it's one thing that I really don't like, when riding a horse. I know when I was taking lessons my freshman year of high school, I was taking lessons at a place, and they had me on a horse that was, like, about to retire, and he would always trip over himself, and there's nothing scarier to me than when a horse trips, but they don't fall. They give you that mini heart attack moment where they just trip and they make you feel like it. That's just one thing I do not enjoy about horses, like older horses, when they just trip over themselves. It's not a horse I wouldn't, like, I enjoy riding, but Parker didn't do it all the time, but it was something that happened quite often. Or not really quite often, but it happened a lot. But yeah, I definitely learned a lot about softer hands from him. Like the TAs and my instructor, they call him a tattletale. Oh, he does not like pressure on his mouth, and I think he's got one of the softest bits on the market in his mouth. It was, like a double joint snaffle, and he never had any problems with his mouth, or like any, like you could stick his hands in his mouth, he'd be fine. It's just that when you put pressure on him, he does not enjoy it, and he would throw his head. And so one thing I really had to learn was using more of my core instead of balancing on his mouth. And I don't think I could have learned that on, like, any other horse in that class. 'Cause I don't know if I can, it won't be in this video, but I'm gonna try and get another video of all of my, like, all those videos that I took. You can see when I ride Lena, I do not have steady hands. And if you look at the end of the class, like, you'll never see my hands move. I could hold a glass of water without, like, that's, like, one of the things I'm the proudest about learning from him. And so, jumping with him, I was really nervous at first. I mean, these horses are all, like, I wouldn't say overused, but they're not ridden correctly all the time, so they have bad habits. Um, they're fast, you know, not all of them are great jumpers. And I was blessed to have Parker because he's got one of the best jumps in the class. Um, and he jumped amazing. And when we were starting out on Crossrails, he could, like, you know, it's not hard to find a distance on a Crossrail just because, like, you can canter off over it. Like, it's not much of a jump. Um, but he would have a very smooth jump going over them because that's what I would like. That's what we were trying to do, and he knew that's what he was supposed to do. He wasn't just supposed to trot over them. Um, so I was really like beyond happy to jump him, and I want to include a video, just but the quality is gonna be awful. But anyways, I had like I cannot. I don't think I could have learned what I learned from this class taking lessons somewhere else, because you know when you take lessons, especially the place that I was taking lessons at, it was just like I was riding one horse, and you know like a lot of places like they don't have a huge variety in lesson horses. Like they're all super trained, and these horses were not. Like they were trained, they knew their job, but they were not push push button horses. Like you had to work for what you were getting out of them, and that's something I didn't feel like I was gonna get from the place that I was riding down the street from me or the place that I rode last summer. Um, so I definitely think it's good for riders to get different environments and different teachers and instructors to learn from. Um, I mean, since my freshman year, so it's been about like through the past 5 years, I've been through almost 6 instructors, and I've learned different things from all of them. Um, and I've learned different writing styles, and there's just different things you learn from different people. And I have like that's kind of like a motto of mine, you know, like you have something to learn, like everybody has something to teach you. You have something to learn from everybody you make contact with. You know, even if you don't like carry on a conversation with them, if you did, there's always something you can learn from them, and there's always something you can do to make you better. So like even like Grand Prix and you know Olympians, they don't say you know like there's nothing else that I can learn. There's always something that can make you better, um, and that's something I believe in. I'm not the best, but where I'm at now, it's better than I've ever been before. But I can keep growing, and I'll always keep growing. I don't think there's ever a point where you can stop learning, and there's ever a point where you can stop being better than you are. And that's one thing that like really kind of bothers me about some people is that they think they've peaked, and they think that you know I'm great. There's nothing else I can learn from you. You can't teach me anything else. Um, and a lot of things you have to learn from yourself. When there's nobody who can teach you anything, you have to learn from yourself. Um, So yeah, that was kind of like an off-track rant, but it's just something that I feel like I need to put in this video. And I know it's super long, and I apologize, so hopefully you get all the way through this part, and I appreciate it if you do. So, until next time, guys, bye!